Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to be able to host these meetings and share in this wonderful exploration of human design knowledge together. This week, we're going to be looking at a pretty remarkable subject in human design called profile. Given the number of people who have shared their profile, it seems as though it's at least something you guys are already, somewhat familiar with, which is great. Um, Profile is a really important aspect of the human design system, especially as a newcomer, that can help you to better relate to your unique personality characteristics and unconscious strengths and tendencies. When combined with your type, for example, I'm a 6'2" projector, you can unlock a lot of really great insights about your design without having to go into the nitty-gritty details of trying to make sense of all the different gate, channel, or line activations in your chart. Okay. Profile is a really powerful entry point, like I said, to anybody who's new to human design, and it can really help you to better align with your authentic nature, begin to identify with your particular strengths, and also, come to recognize your unique challenges and how to overcome them through the use and application of this knowledge base. It's a really fascinating and practical, useful subject, and it's one that a lot of people in the human design community have become familiar with over the years. And we actually ran a poll on our YouTube channel to see what kind of subjects our community would be interested in, and profile seemed to sort of lead the way. So here we are talking about this really fascinating subject. Often profiles are referred to as a costume that we all each individually wear in life. And I like to say it's sort of the costume to the party of life. We each have a unique costume or gown that we wear, and it gives us, a unique perspective, and it gives us unique strengths, and it sort of gives us this particular role to play in the world that is authentic to our own nature and something that is a part of our life from the moment we're born all the way through to the moment that we die. Like, it's not something you can change. It's something you can mature into accepting, living into, and finding comfort within once you begin to apply your type strategy and your authority and wake up to your own unique nature through the application of this knowledge base. That being said, of course, profile is something that we all have independent of whether or not we're aware of our design. It's still a part of our nature. It's just when you're able to examine it and look at it and begin to study and embody the unique characteristics of your profile, it can really help you to align with your unique nature. And yeah, so let's get into it. A little about me. My name is Ryan Hanna. For those of you who don't know, I have been studying and experimenting with human design since late 2015. I am self-studied through source material and also have been on the International Human Design School professional pathway since around 2016. I'm a certified living your design guide, and I am nearly complete my professional analyst training, almost done PTL4 this month. Actually, we only have 3 classes left, so I'm very excited to finally complete that level of analyst training. It's been a really remarkable journey. I've had some amazing human design teachers over the years, people who are very respectful of source human design mechanics and the use and application of this knowledge base across a wide range of use cases. And it's been a really fascinating journey for me personally. I am a 6'2" profile projector with solar plexus inner authority. So I'm an energy projector. This is my design here. Okay. You can see I'm a 4323, 81, 39, 55, and 4130. So those are the channels I carry as a projector. It's been very helpful to learn about my type, and especially my profile as a 6'2" in my early years. And I know, Jesse, you're saying you're born in 91 too, so you're just recently up on the roof, just like myself. And I think I was fortunate enough as a 6'2" to sort of discover human design and get a reading and really begin to understand this knowledge base early in my process, like personally, just in my early life process, to understand the transitional mechanics of being a 6'2" and what that first phase going through the third line theme is all about. So for me, it was really, affirming, acknowledging, helpful, reassuring that it's, things are bound to change and things are bound to get better. And for all those 6'2" or 6'3" profiles out there at conscious level, I'm sure you can relate if you know anything about your profile already. So what are we going to look at today? Today, we're going to cover a wide range of topics regarding profile. I'm going to go into, pretty significant depth for each of the 12 profiles, while also giving you guys a better understanding and explanation of the term angularity. I'm sure some of you may have wondered what that means. You know, when you look at your design, sometimes it'll say right angle cross of planning, and then other times it might say left angle cross of education, or sometimes it'll say juxtaposition cross of the trickster. Like, what does angularity or right angle, left angle, and juxtaposition mean? So we're going to look at that a little bit. Yeah, also going to give you guys the classic human design house metaphor for understanding profile. It's really helpful perspective to help you understand the difference between the first line all the way through to the sixth line, and the different strengths, challenges, and perspectives that each one of those lines embody, so that you can relate it back to these personality archetypes that are so deeply related to our profile. It's a way of being able to understand it and see how it applies to our own individual life. Okay. Near the end, we're going to go through just a bit of an example where we consider the difference between two different profiles in the same type and how that can dramatically change someone's personality archetype, even though they're both generators, right? So something important to consider is that, yes, you may be a projector or a generator or a manifestor or a reflector, but it's also important to consider your profile and how profile plays into your unique qualities and characteristics as a unique person. Okay. And then at the end, we'll open it up for some Q&A, open discussion, and just, yeah, always love to hear about everybody's experience with their profile. Given its accuracy, it can be really profound to relate the profile dynamics back to real life examples. So I'm always really happy to hear and share about that. So what is profile? Profile, again, is something that for those of you who are already studied, you'll be familiar with. For those of you who are brand new, represents the unique costume we wear. Okay, so think about you show up to a Halloween party and everybody is decked out in this costume to represent a unique character or a superhero, okay? And the superhero has a unique perspective, they have a unique set of skills, they have their unique abilities, and they also have a unique set of challenges that go along with being that particular character in the world. So the costume metaphor is really, it's kind of a classic way of describing profile, and it's an easy way for you to be able to identify with what it means, okay? So again, profile represents the costume we wear and the role we are designed to play in the fulfillment of our life's work and purpose. It is something that is a blend between our personality and our design. So again, we have a personality data set or set of calculations on the right-hand side of the chart, and then we have a set of calculations from our design on the left-hand side of the chart in red. Typically, personality is in black. I'm using a dark theme chart here, though, so it's in white. Okay, so we have the black and the red blended together through this juxtaposition of an 88 degree of the sun calculation, bringing together or merging together these two moments in time that we as individuals uniquely embody for the entirety of our life. Okay, so it is a imprinting, and it is an imprinting that is associated, like I said, with our personality and our unconscious design that is brought together and held together within the context of our own unique nature. Okay. And you can almost think of it like a forced marriage, okay, between who we think we are and our body consciousness. What you'll learn through today's presentation is that most profiles are actually dissonant in their line. So like a 6 and a 2 is not a harmony, whereas a 2 and a 5 is, okay, but the harmony profiles are far less common. Most profiles, again, like I said, are this very interesting interplay or forced marriage between a personality construct and this unconscious physical body intelligence that are brought together and held together through the entirety of our entire life, okay? It does represent about 70% of our life force imprinting, given the fact that we're looking at imprinting that's associated with our sun and earths, okay, in the context of our design. And, you know, profile, although we are born with our profile, it's something that we mature into throughout our life, especially if you have a 6. Anybody with a 6-line profile in their design, you are guaranteed to mature into the quality of that 6-line process through a triphasic period of trial and error, aloofness, and then stepping back down into the world as a unique, authentic role model. Okay. Profile, of course, like most things in the chart, can be very uncomfortable to the not self. If you are operating incorrectly as according to your design, learning about the challenges of your profile, the difficulties associated with your profile will likely really resonate with you because, again, because it has to do with our sun and earth and so much of who we are in terms of our imprinting and our life force energy, when we're operating incorrectly, okay, and not respecting our unique life force energy, our profile doesn't seem to fit. It feels like the costume is too tight or it's too loose or there's just something wrong with it. And we have a lot of challenges and complaints that go along with that. Of course, type strategy, inner authority, honoring your unique strategy as your type, honoring your unique inner authority, okay, as according to your design, helps a lot in the process of being able to mature into our profile and actually find comfort and not just disturbance and irritation in the qualities that those lines represent, okay? Traditionally, profile is described using the 10th gate of behavior. So today we're going to look at each and every profile through the context of it being described as a first line being investigator and a fourth line being an opportunist, for example. Those descriptions are derived from the 10th gate of behavior in the G center. Now, there are, in fact, more profiling gates, okay, including the 7th gate, the 13th gate, the 1st, the 59th, the 27th, the 6th, and the 50th. Each of those profiling gates can be utilized to understand through resonance how you are uniquely designed to take on a role in society, what kind of creative style you may have, the types of bonding strategies and caring strategies, and how you are quite literally designed to resonate to friction and relationships, and like I said, bonding and sexual relationships, as well as the types of values structure through the 50th gate that you are likely to resonate to through the context of your profile. Okay. It's kind of complicated in the sense that, traditionally gate 10 again is used to describe each one of the lines of the profiles, but then you can look at somebody's design. For example, looking at Magnus's design, he doesn't even actually have the 10th gate of behavior. So calling him a hermit heretic, which is his profile, is kind of interesting because he doesn't actually have that gate in his design. So he would be referred to as a hermit heretic through the context of resonance through his profile to the 10th gate, not because he actually has it. It's one of the things with analysis work is when you look at someone's chart, and yes, even though the classic description of their profile is accurate, look to see if they actually have the 10th gate and whether or not that 10th gate is activated with the line that resonates to their profile, or it may actually be different, where you could have like a 5-1 profile, so a heretic investigator profile, and maybe they have the 10th gate in the fourth line where their behavioral qualities are actually more opportunistic in nature. So it can get really deep, really sophisticated and nuanced real quick. And yet again, just considering the classic descriptions can really help a lot to better understand your unique role, purpose, and how to work with the fulfillment of your life's work. Jesse, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm slightly lost on these gates. This is like new information for me, and I just want to. Where did these gates come from? Like, how is this complementary to the profile?
So Ross spent a lot of time teaching what are called profiling gates in addition to the 10th gate that help to give added context and depth to understanding someone's unique profile. So again, classically, traditionally, the 10th gate is used to describe each of the 12 profiles from the investigator all the way through up to the role model. Okay, so those keynotes are coming from the 10th gate. But you can also look at the 7th gate and all 6 lines of the 7th gate and look to see, for example, you're a 6th line, right? You're a 6-2. So the 6th line of the 7th gate would be the administrator. Okay, so that administrator keynote also has relevance to you as a role model. Okay. And so, and again, you can continue all the way through the 13, the first, the 59, the 27, the 6, and the 50. If you look at all
Okay,
of those
so
different gates, you can derive a
so
better understanding.
okay, so the profile bears a heavier weight within those gates. I have three of those. So is that what you're saying? Is like the profile will show itself more heavily through those specific gates if they're activated?
Yeah, exactly. So I
Okay.
think so that again, the 10th gate is the gate of behavior. So again, if we're thinking about profile as being a costume, it's like how your costume is designed to behave, right? So we're deriving those base keynotes from the 10th gate, first line all the way through to the sixth line. But in addition to that, you can also look at the seventh gate and derive the same kind of information relative to your profile, right? So again, the seventh gate, sixth line is the administrator, and then the seventh gate, second line is the Democrat. So 6-2s, although they're referred to as role model hermits, are also keynoted as administrator Democrats, those who are called out to administrate the collective, right, with their higher perspectives. What you can do, and again, it's an activity. The software isn't going to show this information. This is something you would learn in Rave cartography. What you can do as a personal exercise is take note of your profile and then have a look at the Rave I Ching and take note of the first, so your personality line and your design line of all of those other 7 gates. Okay. Each and every single one of them will just as accurately as the 10th gate describe the qualities of your profile, okay, just through the context of a different circuitry, okay? Does that help to make sense a little
Yeah,
bit?
for sure. No, I have some more digging to do. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so again, the additional tip here is to consider the fact that, the 10th gate is part of integration or centering circuit. So it's like very individual energy. So when we're looking at the classic descriptions of profile, we're looking at a very individual energy or energetic keynoting of the profile. But when you start to look at these additional profiling gates, again, such as the 7th gate located in the G center, which Magnus actually has in his design, the 7th gate is a very collective logic understanding shared energy. It's very different from an individual behavioral energy. It's more about having a role in society. So there are these layers of context that through self-study or, getting a reading, you can begin to understand how your profile, so the same activations between your personality, Sun, Earth, design of Sun, Earth, resonate to all these other different gates to be able to actually describe your nature in a way that's remarkably comprehensive. Okay. And yeah, I hope that it's just to show you that there are, in addition to the classic descriptions of profile, other gates rather than just the 10th gate that are used to describe our unique costume. Okay. Oh yeah. And so I wanted to use this example of someone who's kind of famous to help you guys understand sort of how profile works. Again, for those of you who are studied, you'll already know, but the second line and the fifth line, for those of you who are new, the second line is whenever you see a 2 in someone's profile, it means that they're projecting out this quality from the gate, okay? And it is seen by others. And whenever you see a 5, it means that that gate energy is receiving projections from other people. And with those projections, a whole ton of expectations with regards to the gate that it's linked to. So when you have a 2-5 profile, you have a field of double projection. Okay, you have someone who is both seen and projected upon. Now, I think with Magnus, it's really, for those of you who don't know, Magnus Carlsen is pretty much like he's like the best chess player in history, and he's currently competing, like he's still actively competing, and he has like the highest rank in history. He's a uh, grandmaster. And I think it's just a really interesting thing to consider when you look at his personality, Sun Earth, that he is a second line. in the gate of details, and the gate of skills. Okay, so here's Magnus playing chess, and what do we see? Okay, Magnus, as in terms of his personality, we see very clearly the projection of someone who's focused and someone who's skilled, right? So you can see right there, there's someone living into the context of their personality profile as their unique costume in life, okay? And at the same time, at the unconscious level, because we have the 4037 forming the channel of community, which is very tribal, whereas this is very logical collective, we have a sort of energy that's projected upon as being able to deliver, okay, and be a member, a strong delivering member of a community, right? So what does Magnus receive? He receives projections that he can deliver the goods, be competitive, okay, be an integral part of his community, at the same time being seen as someone who's focused on details and enthusiastically skilled as a projector with what he's focused on, right? Okay. It's a very, I don't think it gets much more clear than that. If you think about, what he does for a living and what he's known for, and very well accomplished in as a projector, right? He's a projector, a very successful chess player. Okay. And so this kind of example can be used in your own life. It can also obviously be used in understanding the lives of the people around you. Okay. Because profile adds this really deep layer of understanding how the actual gates in our design function, okay? See, these gates function as part of circuitry, as part of centers, as part of channels. Yes, 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 that's all true. But they also function in terms of the lines and how the lines create basically a perspective within that energy for the person that embodies them, and also how other people within your life perceive that energy as well. Okay. And again, as we go through each of the 12 profiles today, you're going to get a better understanding of how that applies to each one of them. Okay. Just reading the chat here, Darcy. I have none of those gates. Yeah, and see, and this is a great example. So Darcy's saying I have none of those gates activated. And that's why, okay. And so this is the kind of stuff I learned in analyst training, okay? There are generalities in human design. Profile is a generality because if you don't have the 10th gate in one of the lines that actually resonates with your personality design activations, are you actually an investigator martyr, right? Or are you actually a hermit opportunist? Or are you actually a role model hermit, right? In terms of your behavioral qualities, no, you can't really say that because you don't have that gate active in your design. And again, if you don't have any of the other profiling gates, then it's even more so, okay, but what do you actually have? In the case of Magnus, if we actually look at his personality and Sun Earth, what he actually has active is the 9th gate, taming power of the small, focusing on details, and the 16th gate, the gate of enthusiasm or skills, right? Neither of which are actually profiling gates, right? In the traditional sense, and yet that's where his personality Sun Earth is located. So yeah, profile, Martyr Heretic, yeah, Martyr Heretic 3 file. Profile is something that we can understand to help us get into our design and into our unique costume in life in a way that helps us to resonate with our unique process. But of course, you can go deeper. And I encourage people to self-study and really have a look and see, do I have the 10th gate? Do I have any of those profiling gates? Does the description in that context therefore actually apply to me directly? Or do you need to look at how it resonates to the gates that you actually do have active in your personality and design? Okay. And Marie's saying I have 4 of the other profiling gates, 7, 13, 59, and 6. Yeah, so it would be an interesting activity, Marie, for you to look to see if any of those gates that you have that are the other profiling gates are in resonance to your profile. So if there is, you can see how that energy would be, it would feel more comfortable to you if it was the same, if it was like a 5 and a 5 or a 3 and a 3, or if there's differences, okay? And those unique differences, or what we call dissonance, would create a unique nuance to your design that could be understood as part of your unique qualities, okay? Okay, so this is a really classic example in human design for being able to understand profile at a basic level. It's been used for years to describe the differences between the lines. So again, we're looking at a 6-line hexagram structure when we're considering profile 1 through 6, okay? And each and every single one of these lines has a very different function. It has a different purpose. It has a different perspective. It is going to shape and craft and influence the qualities of the gates that they are a part of in a very different way. Again, for example, like I said, with Magnus, he's the 9th gate in the 16th gate in the 2nd line, which is a projection outwards. So what does the world get to see? They get to see Magnus focused and concentrated and skillfully playing chess, okay? If he was a 1st line or a 3rd line or a 4th line or a 5th line or a 6th line, that energy would be very different, even though it's in the exact same gates, okay? There are these energetic shifts that happen, again, like I said, even between the lines within the same gates. And when we're talking about profile, being able to understand your unique profile and the strengths, qualities, and characteristics associated with your costume, understanding the house metaphor is a really helpful perspective, okay? So profile has roots in the hexagram. Again, for those of you who are unfamiliar, hexagram refers to this I Ching chops structure where we have 6 lines, and these 6 lines form a structure of understanding related to the gates in terms of their yin-yang qualities. And when we look at the house metaphor, we can see that we have the first lines represent the foundation of the house upon which everything is built. So whenever you're looking at a first line, whether it be something that's a part of your profile, or you're trying to understand a first line quality of a gate in your design that you may have or that somebody else may have, you have to understand that it is a foundational aspect to the gate structure upon which everything else is built. It is not a projection. It is not seeking to connect. It is not necessarily gifted with a higher perspective, okay, or opportunistic in nature. And it's not necessarily actually built to make mistakes or deal with mistakes, as would be the case with the 3rd line. First lines are all about what is so, the hard facts, the actual foundation of the hexagram upon which, like I said, everything is built. Now, in that way, first lines often deal with themes of research, investigation, fact-finding, needing a solid foundation, feeling stable in their life, okay? And requiring that they understand things in a deep way so that they can feel secure in their understanding of how things actually work, okay? And again, if we have first lines in our design or first lines as your profile, if you feel insecure and if you feel as though you need to do more research, it's a sure sign that you're on track and that you're resonating to the qualities of your profile. Okay. Second lines are on the first floor doing their own thing with the curtains open where others can see them as they walk by. So again, it's very different than the first line foundation, busy investigating the hard facts of life, self-absorbed in their own personal process. We now have the second line hermit who is, doing their own thing. They're walking around in the living room. Maybe they're sitting down watching TV. Maybe they're singing karaoke or they're in the kitchen, cooking up a storm, whatever it may be. Uh, the curtains are open and people can see them as they're walking by. So that's what it's like to be a two, is you're seen. Okay. You're not busy investigating or trying to establish a solid foundation. You're just a natural sort of puttering around the house, doing your own thing, enjoying life for what it is. And, quite frankly, you would rather not be bothered by the necessity of, investigation or having solid foundation. You just sort of want to be left alone to do your own thing. But of course, because the second line is a projection and people see the second line, they often get called to participate in activities by those that are walking by the house and seeing them do that thing that they do oh so well, oh so naturally. Okay, so second lines receive a call. Third lines can be understood as traveling up the spiral staircase from the first floor to the second floor. So we're going from the lower trigram, which again is very much so self-absorbed in its own process. By the time we get to the third line, this is the first opportunity where we try to start to actually connect consciously with other people, even though that doesn't necessarily happen until we get to the fourth line. But the third line tries. The third line is going through life, bumping into things, experimenting, learning through processes of trial and error. And again, with the house metaphor, you can think of it as third lines are traveling up the spiral staircase from the first floor to the second floor, and sometimes they tumble down the stairs only to get up and try again. Okay. If you've got a third line personality or a third line unconscious, trial and error, bonds made and broken, mistakes, trying things out, discovering what doesn't work, these are all things that are a part of your process as you are in many ways transitioning from the purely personal, self-absorbed first line and second line to a quality that is starting to be considerate of what could be beyond its own unique process and try to experiment or join forces with other people, which is what happens when we get to the fourth lines. See, the fourth lines are now on the second floor of the house. So we're up here on the second floor. Okay, so we're no longer part of the lower trigram, we're up to the upper trigram. And fourth lines are comfortably stationed on the second floor of the house, looking across the street on the phone with their friend. So they have a unique perspective that is more so about being considerate about the people around them. They're more friendly in nature, more about establishing a network and connections with those people around them. And they have a bit of a perspective, right? They're not down on the foundation like the first lines are. They actually have a second floor view where they can look out across the street and see the people around them and actually have the ability to make a connection and reach out and be considerate of the people around them. Okay. Fifth lines, okay, are a very unique line in the hexagram because it can be understood that the fifth lines are in the master bedroom with the blinds closed, with expecting strangers looking up and speculating. See, the fourth line and the fifth line are on the same floor. The fourth line is friendly, opportunistic, and looking to connect. And the fifth line is hiding away behind the blinds because it has to deal with a field of projection. Okay. If you have a fifth line in your profile, it represents a quality of energy that gets projected upon by other people with expectations that that energy that you carry is going to be able to fulfill upon their hopes, dreams, desires, and fantasies. And of course, what happens to the fifth lines is they get sick and tired of the projection field, they close the blinds and they want nothing to do with it. Okay. And then what happens subsequent to that is people just continue to project their expectations and speculations, even though they cannot actually see the fifth line for who they actually truly are, which can be very difficult for fifth line personalities, especially because of the projection field and because basically whenever you meet someone, they're going to look at you and immediately fabricate an expectation from within their mind that you're going to be something for them that you may not necessarily actually be. It can create a sense that nobody actually sees you for who you actually are. And that can typically be the case with fifth lines, which creates all sorts of challenges and dilemmas at the level of the personality. Nevertheless, fifth lines are the representation and the embodiment of the sort of ultimate expression of the gate. So when they are healthy and when they have received the projection that's positive and they can live into that projection and expectation, they receive the positive projection in return, of course, and the acknowledgement that they're actually able to be a leader or a savior or a capable guide for other people. So yeah, and you'll see as we go through the 12 profiles, the fifth line can either suffer from projections and feeling that nobody sees them for who they truly are, or they can use it to their advantage and use their social skills to live into those positive projections, take on leadership roles, and derive the rewards associated with those kind of positions in life. Okay. But it's always, always, always going to have to deal with this field of projection, which can be really challenging and difficult. Now, all the while, after going through a turbulent first phase of the Saturn return phase in their lives, all the while, 6 lines are comfortably perched on the roof of the house with an objective view of the whole neighborhood. So again, if you have a 6 line in your personality, or if you have a 6 line unconscious, this is an aspect of your energy that has a higher perspective. Okay. That is designed to embody wisdom, that really is here to be a natural in its ability to actually embody a knowing or a wisdom or a perspective of everything going on around you, to which people look for advice. Okay. Now, again, with the 6 line, when they're up on the roof, so that middle phase, 30 to 50, it's a time for retreat. It's a time for healing your wounds. And it's a time for preparing for the call for when you re-engage in the world later on in life post-Chiron. But again, if you are a 6-2 or a 6-3, embodying a higher perspective and being somebody that other people can come to for your objective guidance and wisdom is really important to your process. And again, thinking of objectivity in the sense of making decisions based on facts rather than feelings. Okay, so the 6th line is up on the roof. They really can see what's going on in the whole neighborhood, right? It's a lot different than the 1st line, who's just busy in securing the foundation of the house upon which the 6th line gets to sit. Okay, uh, to the point where you actually get up to the 6th line perspective, where you have this higher perspective, this higher knowing, and this more objective sense and understanding of the world around you that can be very beneficial to others when you're operating in a healthy way that's correct according to your type. Okay. So again, from this diagram, from the house metaphor, you can see how each and every single one of the lines is very different in the way they operate. And they play a unique role in shaping and crafting how our energies express uniquely according to the gates that they're a part of, and of course our profile as a whole. Actually, before I scoot along here, is there any questions about this? Looking at Jesse. Do conscious 5th lines know who they are, or do they tend to see themselves through the lens of what is projected on them? Great question. Who knows? If you're a child and everybody's projecting upon you that you are this thing, do you even have time in your early years to develop a sense of who you are? If it's just a constant field of projection, See, this is the thing. The 5th lines are behind the curtain, so they have a private life. And their private life is probably more accurately described. Yeah, Beth, I'm a 5-1 and I know who I am. Beth, did you want to share about what it's been like? Maybe if be help to hear it from someone who actually embodies the profile.
I'm not sure I would know where to begin without a more distinct question.
So she said, I'm a 5-1 and I know who I am. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you don't know who you are as a 5th line. It's just that the 5th line is described as having to deal with a projection field from the outside. And like I was saying, with the 5th line metaphor of the house, there's a private life associated to the fifth line because they're behind the curtains, right? That is unique to their own nature. That is the authentic expression of how they behave and how they speak and how they engage with others and how they react to circumstances and questions that come their way. That, of course, is unique to who they are. It's just dealing with that field of expectation can be a challenge. And it's especially a challenge when those expectations and projections are basically like fabricated in the minds of the people who approach you. Okay, that they end up running with this whole story about who you are and who you should be to them, and why it all fell apart because the fifth line didn't live into that expectation or didn't fulfill upon that promise or wasn't able to be the savior or the leader or the general that they had hoped for. That kind of experience can be very challenging for the five, and challenge them and put them in a position of having to reconsider, again, how they present themselves to the world. The fifth line profile, whether it be at a conscious or an unconscious level, again, is always going to receive positive projections upon meeting a stranger for the first time. It's the moments thereafter in what is said or what is done that determines how the other person is going to feel about the fifth line, regardless of who or what or how the fifth line feels about themselves. And it's just, unfortunately or fortunately, part of the mechanics and kind of the way that the fifth line must learn to operate in the context of interactions with their people. And it's especially important when we start to look at the left angle profiles that include the 5-1 and the 5-2, because the fifth line at a conscious level, when you see that in someone's profile, is transpersonal or other oriented, being able to develop social skills and interactive capacities and fulfill upon leadership duties, it goes hand in hand with embodying that profile. Beth said, yes, Ryan, all true in my case. Darcy's saying, and then having to deal with the rejection when you are not what they projected upon you. Exactly. And it's tough. Remember, like I said, like all things in human design, there's binary. There are strengths and gifts to each one of the lines and the profiles, and there are also challenges associated with all of them as well. And again, when you look at the second line or the fifth line, it can be really challenging because they're both fields of projection where other people make up all these crazy stories that they're going to be something for them without even asking permission from the person or asking out of consideration whether or not that person is interested or capable of living into that projection. And like I was saying, it can even be more difficult for the second line because the second line, again, the hermit doesn't have inherently built into their nature other people or social transpersonal skills, right? So you can receive all of these projections as a second line that, hey, look at this natural and this ability to do this particular thing, and you get a call to come out and do it. You're not a one, so you haven't done investigative research. You're not really sure if you can live into the projection. You're kind of just doing it because it feels right. It's like a natural gift you were born with, right? And it can be really uncomfortable for a two to be called out. Okay, that's why they often hide and are reclusive in nature, right? But yeah, so that's, again, the house metaphor, help you guys begin to grasp the differences between the lines and how the different lines within their own structure create energetic themes that we can see as prevalent in our profile. Okay. All right, so angularity, another big word. Human design is full of these big words, and angularity is another one of them. When you're looking at angles, you're looking at either the right angle, the juxtaposition, or the left angle. And as you can see by this chart on the right-hand side, or this diagram on the right-hand side, we have right angle profiles, we have juxtaposition profiles, and we have what are referred to as left angle profiles, okay? Each profile has a unique function and role to play within the drama of life. Our costumes represent characters with unique gifts that differ from one hero to the next. Whenever you see a right angle in someone's design, so it might say the right angle cross of this or the right angle cross of that, you're looking at profiles that are either 1-3, 1-4, 2-4, 2-5, 3-5, 3-6, or the 4-6. Okay. All of these profiles are said to be more focused on their own personal destiny, okay, their own self-absorbed doing, rather than being transpersonal or other person focused and oriented, such as is the case with the left angle. Okay, so the left angle profiles are the 5-1, the 5-2, the 6-2, and the 6-3. Right angles are self-absorbed in their own process, and the left angles bump into these energies and actually help to clean up the karma created by the right angles who are busy in their own self-absorbed doingness. Okay. In the middle of both of them is the 4-1. That's why I asked at the beginning if there were any 4-1s here, because it's a rather rare profile. 4-1 profiles are referred to as being juxtaposition. And again, think of juxtaposition as a word that is used to describe contrast. So it's like if you had a really tall building next to a really small house, it would be an extreme contrast. So in the same way, when you have a fourth line and a first line fixed together, you have this extreme of juxtaposition where you have someone who at a personality level is very network savvy, develops the context of developing influence and networking, joined to the foundation of their own personal understanding and knowledge base, just sort of traveling along their own fixed trajectory from one moment to the next, helping to actually unify and join forces from both the right angle and the left angle. So they bring the research department and the naturals from the right angle with the administrators and the leaders from the left angle, and they join them together to travel down this fixed fate geometry that they're on. That is, if you're a 4-1 or juxtaposition profile. Okay. Again, considering right angle and left angle alone is not enough to basically get a deeper understanding of your own unique profile. Because again, if it says right angle, you could be any one of the profiles associated with the right angle category. Same can be said for left angle. Okay. But again, just traditionally speaking, right angles are more self-absorbed in their own doing. They have a responsibility for themselves primarily first, to ensure that they are satisfied, successful, at peace, and experiencing surprise in their own life personally, or their own personal actions, and how those personal actions affect them directly is more important as a focus. Okay. Whereas if you get into the left angle category, you're starting to talk about people who have responsibility for other individuals, okay, where you have a leadership capacity, you have the ability to actually look out from beyond your own individual self-absorbed process and start to be concerned for and considerate of all of those people in your life. And the thing is if you're a left angle, your life's work and purpose, the theme of your incarnation cross, is fulfilled through the agency or the relationships that you develop with all of those other people in your life. Okay. It's very different than being a 1-3 who's at the foundation researching, experimenting, discovering things and how things work at a factual level than it is to be a 5-2 who is called out to be a general to lead an entire army, right? They're different roles and they're different gifts and they're different strengths that are associated with each one of the profiles. Okay. So that's just a little bit of clarity, hopefully, on the difference between the right angle, juxtaposition, and left angle, because it is an integral component to understanding profile. There are you'll see, I guess I'll mention too, because it's the only time I'll really have the opportunity to mention this. You'll notice that there are far less 4-1s than there are 1-4s than there are 1-3s. Okay, and there's far less 2-5s than 2-4s or 3-6s or 3-5s. By the way, these statistics are from the Jovian Archive database. Again, like I said, based on around 43 million chart calculations. That is because there is an arc of time in which each profile is available as an imprinting, and that arc of time is far greater for what we call foundational profiles like the 1-3, the 2-4, the 3-5, and the 4-6 than it is for the 1-4, 2-5, and the 3-6. You're going to see a lot less 1-4s than you, and this just actually say 2%, 2.8, not 22. You're going to see a lot less 1-4s, 2-5s, 3-6s, 5-2s, 6-3s in the world than you are any of the other profiles. Again, just because the arc of time associated with the imprinting, meaning the time in which throughout the day it's available for someone to receive that as their profile on the day that they were born, is far less than any of the other profiles. Okay. And what's actually unique about the transitional profiles, the ones that are a lot less common, is they are what we refer to as harmony. Okay, whereas the 1 and the 4, so you have the foundation of the lower trigram and the foundation of the upper trigram, they're in harmony, right? You got the projection of the lower trigram and the projection of the upper trigram with the 2 and the 5, the 3 and the 6. You have this deep experimental nature, bound to the and in association with this wisdom potential with the 3 and the 6. Okay, so if you look at the hexagram line structure, you'll see that there's harmony between the transitional profiles, but they are a lot less common. Most profiles that you'll see in the world are what we refer to as dissonant profiles, where, for example, the 2 and the 4, hermits are not opportunists and opportunists are not hermits. How the heck is that supposed to work, right? It's this odd combination where it creates, like I said, like a dissonance between the personality and the design that at first glance would seem very awkward and weird and different and strange, right? To be able to embody, where the personality basically just wants to be left alone and the unconscious design is constantly pulling them out to socialize and network. It can create tension without awareness. But that's just the way we are. We are designed. And it creates a lot of activity. It creates dynamic interaction. Okay. And it propels us forward to interact with the world and other people. Okay, so let's actually get into each one of the 12 profiles, starting with the 1-3. So the 1-3, the investigator martyr, again, is traditionally referred to as a foundation experimentation kind of profile. Like I said before, the 1-3 is a right angle. So we're looking at, and it's the foundation, it's the first profile in the sequence. It is the most self-absorbed, self-considerate, and important profile in that sense, because it is the foundation upon which all other profiles or expressions in society are built. Okay. It's a really profound thing to think about, is that basically the foundation of the human process is to be investigative in one's nature and to basically experiment with things to find out what does and does not work. Okay, so that you can better understand how the world functions. Okay, so again, the investigator martyr. The 1-3 profile combines a deep need to investigate and understand with a tendency to learn through personal mistakes and trial and error. That's coming from the third line. They often require a blend of self-absorbed research and experimentation in order to feel secure with their discoveries. Okay, so again, if you're a 1-3, that's a really important thing to be aware of. You know, it's like investigating things, researching things, getting down to the hard facts of things so that you can feel secure in your knowledge base. That's really important for that first line personality, right? And yet at the same time, there's going to be this unconscious tendency within you to experiment, to try things out, to learn through trial and error, to sometimes make mistakes, and making mistakes in ways that you don't even necessarily identify with. You know, it's like the 1-3 scientist who's hovering over their microscope. So they're investigating the structure of the cells that they're looking at, and they accidentally, with their body, knock over a beaker, and that beaker combines with another one and all of a sudden they've created this whole new chemical compound, right? So it's this it's this dynamic between investigating things, uh, providing again the strength of a thoroughness in research and a reliability in one's knowledge, and a resilience in overcoming trials and tribulations through experimentation and research. Okay. The 1-3s, like I said, are really important because they help to concretize the foundation of the hexagram, discovering what does and does not work through bumping into life. Okay. Challenges. The 1-3 is the least social of all the profiles because it is actually the only profile that is entirely lower trigram, meaning the 1 and the 3 are in the lower level of the hexagram, right? It's not like a 1 and a 4 where you got that fourth line unconscious looking to network and connect. Okay, it's both within the foundation and the first story or floor of the house. Okay. So in that way, 1-3s can potentially suffer from a sense of insecurity and struggle with social dynamics, feeling unseen. They may not identify without awareness with their unconscious trial and error mistakes and can be overwhelmed at times with fear and pessimism. And so the fear is coming from the first line, and that pessimism is originating from the third line, where you're always fearful, looking for a solid foundation, and at the same time, things around you are going awry and mistakes are being made and experimentation is happening and things can feel really unstable, right? So it can be a challenge for the 1-3 to really be able to find something that they can trust in, that they know that works based on them having looked into it and thoroughly analyzing it, uh, in order to feel secure, in order to feel stable, in order to feel anchored within their unique costume. Okay. Again, look, use an example, like let's say we had a 1-3 projector. So we know the projector type is a natural guide and an advisor for others. And at the same time, a 1-3, they're going to make mistakes in providing guidance. Hopefully they learn from those mistakes and they continue to develop and research their talents and their abilities. Okay, so that in the future they can be recognized and feel more successful. Okay, just a little bit of a synthesis to see how it can apply to a type. Okay. But yeah, the 1-3 is a foundation combined with experimentation and being able to research things, look into things deeply, and learn from processes of trial and error is so critical to you as a 1-3. Okay. So the 1-4, investigator opportunist, again, another right angle profile. The 1-4 profile blends a self-absorbed researching personality, just like the 1-3, with that of a social savvy networker who can externalize their findings through a connected network of friends and associates and, uh, people and people you meet through people you know. Okay. The strengths of the 1-4 is pretty remarkable in that when standing on a solid foundation, their friendliness can have a very influencing effect on those around them, coming from that unconscious fourth line. And they're really designed to build foundation networks that serve their own unique purpose. Because again, remember, all of their right angle profiles are self-absorbed in their own doingness. So let's say you had a 1-4 generator and they've responded positively to helping develop their own business. Okay. They're the kind of people who are going to have to do some fact finding and a lot of research before they feel comfortable in externalizing or sharing that business with other people. And yet it is through sharing it and being more external and connecting with other people that they're going to find balance and satisfaction between their doing and their personality and profile. Okay. Again, another very interesting combination where you have a connection between uh, the lower trigram and the upper trigram in such a way that is in harmony. Okay. So we have the foundation of what is combined with the externalization of that foundation. So it's like, it's like a research scientist publishing their findings, okay, and really getting their message out and gaining influence from their own endeavors and their own process. Okay. Now, of course, there are challenges with having that fourth line unconscious, whereby their introspective personality may not identify with their social strengths. This is something I've seen quite often with people who have fourth lines unconscious. They're kind of like, what network, what friends, what opportunities, right? It's not something the personality identifies with. And yet it's a part of their nature, right? Leading to missed opportunities, advancing themselves. Again, if they're not identified with the importance of networking and the importance of socializing and sharing their findings and sharing their research. Okay. And of course, whenever you see a 4, you're looking at an energy that is very fixed like an arrow or fixed like an oak tree. Okay. When a 1/4 understands something thoroughly, you bet that they're the ones who have the ability and the skill and the talent for being able to externalize that foundational knowing in a way that's going to make an impact on other people. Okay. And it's going to make an impact on other people through their own fixed, unique perspectives. Okay. The hermit opportunist, again, another right angle profile. We are no longer looking at the first line personality. We've now shifted into the second line personality. So we're looking at a natural, someone who is seen doing their own thing, okay, is gifted with a unique ability that doesn't necessarily require introspective research and analysis in order to develop. We're simply looking at the combination of a natural yet possibly shy talent of the hermit with the socially dynamic nature of the opportunist, which again, it's a dissonance or a dichotomy when you think about it, this odd combination between being a hermit and being an opportunist, where there is this thriving that takes place in one's own personal space of solitude, and yet values at the same time advancements through social connections, through friends, through being called out and to connect and to network and to socialize, okay, to be able to share their gifts. Of course, the strengths associated with the 2/4 is that they typically have natural talents. Again, things that they're basically just innately good at doing. And these good things are often seen by others and called out, right? It's like, wow, look how good you are at painting. That's so amazing. You should come join our social club for painters, right? Simple as that. Their innate talents are best used to serve their network, of course, when necessary. 2/4s thrive on solid friendships, friendly connections, uh, you know, sort of like intimate, friendly gatherings. It's like if you can retreat somewhere with a group of friends, it's often sort of a very comfortable experience for a 2/4. Yeah, and of course, challenges. The hermit in them may resist being called out of their comfort zone, because like I said, second lines are not they're not other oriented in that sense. They really just like to do their own thing. And yet people see them and they want to call them out for their natural gifts, but it can be really uncomfortable for a 2 to be called out. And there can be a dependency on familiar social circles rather than new opportunities. Um, it's like the 2/4 who's had the same friend group since they were in kindergarten, right, is not uncommon because it's like you're this hermit doing your own thing. You don't want to be bothered, and you get put in this environment, and you make these friends, and you keep those friends the rest of your life because you don't necessarily at a personality level want to branch out and develop new friends. You kind of just like things the way they are, and you don't necessarily want change. Um, and at the same time, that fourth line and learning about the unique gifts and the gates that the fourth line is associated with in your design, being a 2/4 is important for your own progress and your own process. Okay. And again, 2/4 is the projection and externalization. These can be natural networkers, right? the naturally gifted ability at a personality level to have influence and generously share their natural talents and abilities with others, having an impact and influence on those around them. Okay. Again, if you're a 2 and a 4 at the same time, you're likely going to be shy at a personality level. Okay. And somewhat surprised when, you know, those new opportunities to connect with people and make new friends show up in your life. And again, strategy and your authority, go for it. If you're a 2-4 projector and you get invited into a networking opportunity, remember your personality is going to be like, I don't know, maybe, not sure. Rather just stay home, you know. But again, that fourth line, it brings advantages, brings connection, brings opportunities. And through opportunities, you can advance. And again, using the projector example, being invited to a networking opportunity, you can find some success in your own process. So we have a transitional profile. So we see a shift at the unconscious level from the 4 to the 5. The hermit heretic, right angle profile. 2-5 profile blends the naturally gifted yet often reclusive hermit with the heretic's drive to find practical solutions to societal issues, all the while living into the expectations of others. This is the profile that I used with the example with Magnus earlier, where it's a double projection field, where you see him having natural skills for being able to focus and concentrate on the game of chess. And he's also projected onto other people as being someone who's willful and competitive. So those two aspects blend together to form the uniqueness of his nature. But of course, when you're looking at the 2-5 profile and it being a double projection field, it can be challenging, right? It can be challenging to trust in your own natural gifts combined with the expectations that other people place upon you in times of crisis. Remember, the 5th line often gets called to solve dilemmas. It's like there's a crisis in the community and we need leadership to be able to help us solve this issue. The 2-5 gets called out with their natural abilities to be able to live into that challenge and that expectation to solve the dilemma. Okay. And again, when you see the second line, you're looking at a quality of energy that can often be very bold in their approach. They have a natural ability to lead when called from a place of positive projection, right? So if you're a 2-5 and you receive a call and it's coming with all this positive projection and it feels right to you according to your strategy and your authority, and you accept that invitation or you respond to that thing or you initiate based on a manifestor design, it can come with quite an impact and it can be seen as being very positive, and naturally capable of handling some of life's most complicated challenges. Like I said, sort of the general that gets called into the field during a difficult time in society, right? Society's going through some type of crisis. Here's our natural leaders to step up and live into that call. Okay. Of course, there are challenges. And in the case of the 2-5, there's always going to be this tension between the need for privacy and the expectation to provide solutions. Okay, these solutions, again, people are expecting you to bring something to the table that helps them to solve a problem. But again, being a two second line personality, not necessarily identifying with that can be a dilemma, right? Failing to live into the expectations of others often results in negative projections, of course. So again, this whole thing of clarifying expectations, again, if you're a projector and you receive an invitation to be called out to provide leadership to a group and you're a 2-5, be sure to clarify expectations before accepting that invitation, right? So that okay, what do these people actually want from me? What are the ramifications of me not being able to fulfill upon that expectation? It helps to lessen the shock when the projection cannot be lived into. And of course, the martyr heretic, 3-5s, 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 3-5s. Here we have a very unique blend between experimentation, trial and error, learning through one's own personal tribulations, and the capacity to universalize, or again, live into the expectation of others and be seen as a savior, to be seen as a leader. Okay. The 3-5 profile is a dynamic combination between a persevering personality and that of someone who must deal with the projections of others despite personal mistakes and mishaps along the way. It can be very challenging for the 3-5s to successfully live into the projections of others when the personality is always constantly making mistakes or trying things out and it just doesn't work. Bonds made and broken. You're a 3-5 generator and you respond positively to the projection of a relationship going well. You enter into that relationship and you realize that your personality is not like your personality level is like, I'm not really into this. I got to break the bond. Okay. So you're entering into a relationship correctly. And even when you do that, there's still the potential for that bond in that relationship to be broken and the expectations that were built up around that relationship to collapse, okay, which can be a challenge. But of course, the 3-5 brings a quality of resiliency to the third line and adaptability, where it's like, yeah, that didn't quite work out, but you have the strength to try again. And that's the important thing. If you've got a third line personality, right, the unconscious, you have a built-in resiliency. Yes, you might make a mistake. Yes, things might go wrong. Yes, there might be bonds made and broken. Just go again, try to do a little bit better next time. And again, honoring one's strategy and inner authority, respecting your type dynamics can help a lot so that you enter into the correct relationships for the correct amount of time, knowing, anticipating, and expecting that things might go wrong and that there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. That it's all about learning from your own personal experiences and discovering along the way practical solutions that do work and can ultimately be applied to whatever situation you might be in. Okay. And of course, it's like if you experiment with something as a 3 and you make a breakthrough discovery and then you present that as a practical solution to other people, hey, that's awesome, right? That's like your hero skill set right there. And you're doing it without even having to think about it, Um, So of course, challenges with 3-5. 3-5 deals with, like I said, at a personality level, the theme of trial and error. Can seem very destabilizing, bonds made and broken, things not necessarily feeling like they're ever going to last. Okay. Nothing's working, jobs aren't working. I'm just more and more and more and more and more pessimism. Of course, like I said, if you know this about your nature, that your personality is bound to experiment and discover what doesn't work, and you can be okay with that, you can find great success in being able to sidestep potential difficulties and providing practical solutions for others, understanding what does and does not work. Okay. Of course, combined with a projection field with the 5th line, they may at times disappoint others when they get things wrong. And that can be one of the most difficult challenges for the 3-5 is that they're receiving this unconscious expectation and projection for other people that, hey, wow, you'd probably be a really good leader in this time of crisis. And then that leader's personality fails to live into the expectation placed upon their unconscious. And yeah, then they're in a dilemma, right? Entering into relationships according to his type, strategy, inner authority, will grant you your unique life, right? It's going to help to complement your process and your experience and deal with that experimentation, bonds made and broken a little bit easier. Okay. And again, like I said, whenever you see a 5th line, clarifying expectations is so important. If someone asks you to do something that you've tried to do 100 times in the past and gotten incorrectly most of those times before, it's a sure sign that trying to live into that expectation again, probably not a great idea, right? So clarifying expectations before you move into a relationship, yeah, it can help. It can help relieve, like I said, the not self theme that can build up within our type. Martyr role model. So again, we have a shift now at the unconscious from the 5 to the 6. We have a shift now from the 5 to the 6. So no longer are we dealing with an unconscious field of projection and expectation from others. We're now dealing with an energy of being a role model and someone who has, developed wisdom through direct personal experience, especially early on in life. The 3-6 profile begins life with the difficulty of living as a 3-3, because again, remember that 6 line for the first 30 years is operating as a 3rd line frequency. So you have double trial and error experimentation, both at an unconscious physical level and at a conscious personality level, only maturing fully after a period of turbulent retreat into a capable and experienced example of adaptability and wisdom. The 3-6 profiles, the martyr role model profiles, these are the ones who really can show us from a higher perspective of objectivity and wisdom what does and does not work, because they've been through it. They've been through the experience. They've had the experimentation. They've been through the difficulty. They've learned from their own mistakes. And now at a later stage in life, they actually have the capacity to be able to offer wisdom and guidance to other people, okay, on how to deal with the challenges of life. Of course, their strengths, they embody a resilient experiential learning style that can lead to hard-earned wisdom and leadership potential in their mature phase, okay? Albeit the personality is still prone to experimentation, discovery, trial and error, potential mistakes, okay? And yet again, in that middle phase, 30 to 50, there can be a sense of stability for the physical form, the unconscious level, to retreat, to begin to heal, begin to develop objectivity, even though the personality is very subjective. It creates a dynamic interplay, okay? And like I said, challenges early life can be tumultuous, and the transition to becoming a role model can be challenging, as your personality is always pulling them off the roof, bumping into things along the way. And yeah, again, being a transition profile, you're not going to see as many, or harmony profile, you're not going to see as many 3-6s in the world. And if they've lived and survived beyond their first 30 years, it's definitely something to acknowledge. And that in and of itself is a success, because again, we're looking at difficulty, challenge, trial and error, bonds made and broken, both at the personality and the unconscious level for the first 30 years, which can be a lot to recover from, okay? And finding optimism, regaining trust in one's own unique nature, and recognizing that there is a part of you where your wisdom is very valuable to other people, that you're not just all about mistakes, bonds made and broken, trial and error, that there's an experiential quality and a wisdom and a higher perspective to your nature, especially later on in life, that's very important to other people, so that you can help others avoid the same pitfalls that you experienced early on in your process, okay? So the 4-6 is actually the last of the right angle profiles. The opportunist role model, we're looking at a very unique blend between someone who has a very friendly personality with that of an objective, aloof leadership role model, physiology. Okay, the 4-6 is a unique right angle profile embodying 2 upper trigram lines. You know, I'm not even sure technically why it's not a left angle, but that's just the way it's presented in the material. You would think it being upper trigram that it would have left angle responsibilities, but in fact it is referred to as being more self-absorbed in its own process. And yet the opportunist role model represents this dynamic, friendly interplay of a sociable, extroverted networker and that of an exemplary individual who has matured through challenging beginnings to eventually, after a period of retreat, embody their unique role model nature. Okay, so again, first phase for the 4-6, they're going to be a 4-3. So they're going to engage in friendly networking opportunities that are bound to go wrong, right? Things breaking down, bonds made and broken. being overly generous with their energy and their nature, potentially being like overly gregarious and sharing and connecting, and finding that their most intimate deep bonds at an unconscious level end up broken, which can be very destabilizing, okay, in the early part of a 4-6's journey. It does require a period of retreat. Whenever you see that 6, you're looking at someone who, between the age of 30 and 50, is basically distanced and unavailable. Okay? It's not like the first phase, and it's not like when they come off the roof and they're actually embodying their unique role as a role model. Okay? In that in-between phase, the 4-6 is basically just up on the roof watching everybody else. Okay? And, can be part of one of their gifts. With a friendly and outgoing persona, their generosity can extend into their community and beyond as they mature into wise and objective leaders. Like I said, they are the first example of a conscious personality whose consideration is for the other people in their lives more than their own. Because remember, the first line is introspective, the second line is a natural, leave me alone, I want to do my own thing, and the third line is bumping into people, right? It's in its process and it's just bumping into allies. When you get to the fourth line, you have that upper story perspective looking across the street at one's own neighbor, at one's neighbors. Now you start to get a personality that's actually interested and capable and determined to connect with the people around them. Okay. And in that way, they come across as very friendly, generous, gregarious, outgoing, considerate, and a real pleasure to be around, especially in their later years. Okay. Where they're really embodying that unique role model essence at the same time. These are the kind of people who take on leadership roles within their community, right? So they're very community-oriented personality, and at the same time, they're ready, willing, and able to help organize and administer their community that they're a part of. Okay. Challenges. Of course, like I mentioned, the first 30 years can be a bit rough. Remember, the unconscious is not an energy we necessarily identify with. And when that 6th line is in that 3rd line frequency phase, it can be very destabilizing. All sorts of damaging things can occur to the physicality that can leave one feeling exhausted, frustrated, burnt out, angry, right? Wondering why, lost for answers, wondering why their friends did that to them, or why that particular relationship broke apart that they found so important, right? It can be tough, but again, there's a positive side to this, which is the retreat phase and then the coming down off the roof, truly embodying your own unique style in the world. Fourth lines, like I said, can be very fixed and basically like stubborn. So if you are a fourth line or you have a fourth line profile in your life, and you find them to be very sort of one-track minded, that's just part of their nature. There's nothing you can really do to change that. And it's part of what makes the fourth line be so great at networking, connecting, and establishing relationships, is that it can be very fixed and focused on its own particular perspective and driven to externalize that perspective through its network, uninfluenced by the opinions, ideas, or insights of others. Okay. So yeah, our friendly role models. They're great. I've got 4-6s in my life, and they're wonderful. And it's that theme of friendliness, generosity, and truly being a role model well into your later years is really has a potential here. It's beautiful. Yeah. Opportunist investigator. Like I mentioned earlier, we were looking at angularity. The 4-1 profile is the only incarnation, angularity or incarnation crosses that you'll see, which is referred to as juxtaposition, where you have this locking between the 4 and the 1. We have the fixed upper trigram with the solid foundation of the lower trigram working together to externalize the foundation of whatever their cross is, which is why they're referred to as having fixed fate, because it's like you're on train track, okay? The first line has its security and its knowledge base, and the fourth line is fixed on externalizing that foundation that is developed. There's not much room for anything else. So, I know I'm not going to say their name, but I know someone who's successful in influencing in the wellness industry and who is a 4-1. And it's really amazing to see how his whole trip is the externalization of this foundational knowledge base that he's developed over the years. And that's what he does. And he's very focused on achieving his goal. And if you're with him, you're with him. If you're not, you're not. Like it's nothing to him, right? He's fixed on his own unique trajectory, and that's how he finds his personal success and path in life. And the 4-1 is the only profile, like I said, referred to as having juxtaposition, which, like I said before, is a word used to describe contrast. We have this quite an extreme contrast between the friendly, gregarious, externalizing personality and that of the self-absorbed investigator. Okay. And it does create a dynamic tension between the fixed need for connection and externalization and the essential requirement of a well-researched, solid foundation. 4-1s are designed to network and develop their influence based upon their knowledge of a subject. So again, if you are just going to use the projector example again, let's say you're a 4-1 projector and you've spent years studying a particular subject and you get invited to share what you know about that subject at a networking conference, and you receive further invitations that help to propel your career into a place of success. There you go. Okay. Again, whenever you see that first line in any of the profiles, there is a requirement for research. There is a requirement for investigation. And especially with the case with the 4-1, the 5-1, your whole reputation and the personality construct that you embody is dependent upon you being well versed in a particular subject. Okay. And when you're well versed in that particular subject, then the personality can actually be able to support itself in what it says. Otherwise, there can be difficulties. Otherwise, we have insecurity, uncertainty, okay, not really being able to externalize or gain influence because you're not solid in your understanding. And that's, of course, very much so the case with the 4-1, okay? Of course, their strengths, like all fourth lines, being considerate of others. They have an innate skills for building networks, developing teams, and an ability to be an expert in their chosen field as long as they're properly studied. They can come across as being very fixed in their endeavors, like an entrepreneur focused on achieving success and security through selective, opportunistic strategies. Okay. And that's very much so correct for their own unique process. Like I said earlier, challenges, they often deal with the deep-seated insecurities that prevent them from externalizing their visions, abilities, and capacities for gaining influence. If you're a 4-1, you got to research something. You got to become solid in a particular area of study and expertise upon which your influential personality is then built, right? Otherwise, it can create instability in your own process, fear, and a sense of insecurity. Okay. But yeah, our friendly researchers, it's like I imagine 4-1s make really good salesmen because they understand their product and their personality is really friendly to interact with, and they're only going to sell you the hard facts. They're not going to try to sell you anything other than what is. Okay, they're going to give you the foundation. Question, can you say what is so different when the conscious and unconscious are flipped? The 4-1 versus a 1-4, 5-2 versus a 2-5. Well, for the 4-1 and the 1-4, remember you have a friendly, gregarious, generous, other-oriented personality that has this unconscious need for research. The research and the foundation isn't as much of a priority for that the consciousness within that individual, right? Whereas when you look at the 1-4, the research, the study, the identification with the practice that they're engaged in order to build up a solid foundation of hard facts and knowledge is everything. It's something that they're going to identify with, right? Uh, the 4-1 is out partying while the 1-4 is at home studying. Okay. And it's like there is a difference in terms of how the personality relates to others, especially. Because again, remember the 4-1, now we're looking at something in terms of an energy construct where we have consideration for other people versus the 1-4 where we have a personality construct that is more, like I said, self-absorbed in its own investigative process. We're going to get to the 5-2 shortly, so I'll talk about that when we get there. So the 5-1 are heretic investigators, are strong man, strong women, leaders in society, are general authoritarians. Okay. This is the first of the left angle profiles. So this is the first time we're seeing a profile with an angularity or an orientation that is focused on and has a responsibility for all of the other people in their life, not just their own life themselves, as is the case with the right angle. We're looking at a personality now that truly is other oriented. Okay. And it's not like the 6-2 or the 6-3 that matures into that after 30 years of trial and error, 20 years up on the roof, and then finally reemerging into the world as a unique example for others. The 5-1 is a 5-1 from day one. Okay. So the personality is receiving projections, expectations, hopes, and dreams of others that they can live into some lofty goal or ambition, while at the same time balancing their own personal interests, right? Because we have a first line here. We have a first line that enjoys the process of investigation, research, analysis, okay? Heretic investigators, like I said, are often seen as our strong leaders, okay? The exemplification of the perfection of whatever the gate is that's associated with their design. Okay. Because remember, the 5th line is projected on as being the best example of what a gate actually is. And then the first line represents the foundation. So people are expecting the 5s to be something. And yeah, it's all backed by having a solid foundation that is practical, usable, well researched. Okay. And when 5-1s can bring practical, useful, well researched solutions into other people's lives, you can experience the signature of your type as a result of that. If you're a generator and you've been really working on the development of this, of researching and understanding how to do something in a practical way, and then someone asks you, hey, we have this really extreme challenge that we're looking to solve. Are you able to lead our team while at the same time offering a solution or a new perspective on how we can possibly do it better or different? Because everything we've done in the past has failed. And the 5-1 steps into that role and is able to successfully lead the charge. Of course, it's going to feel satisfying, you know? And yeah, again, the strengths with a 5 is that, like seduction, it is basically, or sorry, like projection, it is a seductive personality. They often receive positive projections when people first meet them, as if they can be their savior, okay, or leader, or general, or, the ultimate parent, or the ultimate girlfriend, or the ultimate boyfriend, or the ultimate teacher, whatever it may be. People project on the 5-1s as being the best of something. But of course, then it's all about how that individual lives into those expectations, whether they like it or not, unfortunately. Using this to their advantage, they can excel as leaders as long as they keep things practical and fulfill upon expectations. Okay. Their reputation, this is a challenge. Again, like I said, with the fives, their reputation is everything and will follow them to the grave. Most people will never be able to see them beyond their own projections. Okay. Even though, like I said, Beth, thank you for sharing earlier. You said, you're 5-1, you know yourself. Of course, you know yourself. Willa, I know you know yourself. And yet you're still dealing with the field of projection. Okay. 5-1 may at times struggle with insecurities, feeling the weight of the needs of others under their responsibility, which you can imagine is can seem like a tremendous burden if you're unaware of all of this and you've entered into a relationship as not self. And all of a sudden you've got all these expectations, and let's say you have an undefined ego and you're trying to prove yourself to live into the expectations of others, and it's just leading to more frustration or more bitterness or anger, right? It can create dilemmas where the other oriented responsibility, again, of being like a general authoritarian, uh, can weigh heavy on the mind, and can be a very difficult thing to balance. And again, that's where human design comes in and says, the importance of entering into relationships correctly as our type, according to our strategy and inner authority. A 5-1 projector that gets invited to lead based upon their solid understanding of a subject is way better positioned to deal with expectation and successfully lead that group than is one that enters into a relationship through one's own self-initiated acts, with an unstable, insecure foundation, not knowing who they are, simply trying to live into and prove that they can be who other people project onto them as being. Of course, they're going to over time feel bitter, right? So, yeah, strategy and inner authority helps to alleviate the weight and the challenge and the difficulties of your profile. Uh, and it's especially the case, of course, when you have a left angle, because it's a responsibility to other people, not just your own personal process. Okay. The 5-2, like the 2-5, is unique, and that is a double projection field. Others project their expectations on the personality of the 5, while equally projecting upon their second line gifts. This profile is always being called to lead others with their natural talents, yet they must respect their own self-motivation and tendency for self-imposed barriers. See, the 5-1 is different from the 5-2 in that the 5-1 is well researched in something. Okay. They are the leaders who have a solid foundation in the facts. Whereas when you get to the 5-2, they are the leaders who have no solid foundation in any kind of facts whatsoever. It's more about their natural talents, abilities, and gifts that they've, either have or have not refined over the years, being seen and called out by those around them. But as you see, universalization, projection, double projection field, it can be challenging. It can be especially challenging when, the 5-2 is asked how they're able to do that, or, not doing something from a place of self-motivation, which I think is a really important keynote to remember for 5-2s and 2-5s, is to act from a place of, or uh, to be doing your process, engage with your strategy and your authority from a process of self-motivation. If you're generating, you respond positively to an opportunity that comes your way, you're responding positively to that opportunity, engaging with that work because you're self-motivated to actually do it, rather than just trying to live into the expectations of other people. It can be really challenging for that personality to operate that way. Okay. Again, because the two is a natural that wants to be left alone until it's ready to share. Oh, it's respecting both aspects of the profile. Okay. But of course, the call and being invited, responding, initiating, and being deeply self-motivated can really propel them into positions of influence where they have, like I said, transpersonal effect on other people. These are our natural teachers. These are our natural guides. These are our natural engineers and leaders and experts in a particular field that have gifts that they're just able to use, while at the same time embodying a strength and a reliability in a particular quality at a personality level that other people will see as being practical and project onto them as being exactly what's needed to fulfill a role within society. Okay. And again, it can be seen as a strength where you can, seduce others into following your lead without the need for extensive foundational investigation. Because again, whenever you see that too, you're looking at a gift, you're looking at something that is inherently a part of your nature, and you can just embody that without the need for extensive research. Okay. But of course, the challenges with dealing with dual projection field is they can become disillusioned and confused by how others approach them and react to their actions. Okay. Learning to navigate strategy, relationships according to strategy and inner authority can really help to avoid being burnt at the stake, where you get called out to do something as a 5-2, don't live into the expectations of others, and other people are really upset as a result. Can be very difficult for a 5-2 to recover from that, especially because of the hermit side. The hermit side is very comfortable in being left alone and not having to deal with other people. So can create a dilemma. But yeah, our natural leaders called to their role. Okay. 6-2s, role model hermit, left angle. Again, the second to last profile. We're almost there. The 6-2 profile matures through a triphasic life process. The very unique profile in how it expresses early on in life. Basically, the first 30 years of 6-2, their personality is, let's just say, developing. And it's developing from a position of and perspective of subjectivity, where decisions are made based on one's own personal preferences, thoughts, and feelings, rather than what is more authentic to the 6, a position of objectivity, where you make decisions based on facts. During those first 30 years, the 6-2's life can be filled with trial and error, bonds made and broken, and things simply not working out, which can be very painful for the 6-2. It can take years to recover from those experiences where your personality is, you enter into relationship because you're called into it through the second line, and it goes wrong. Something happens where the bond is made and broken at a personality level. It can be very devastating, and they can get absorbed in all sorts of different relationships and commitments in their early life that are not actually complementary necessarily, or a correct fit or match for who they're designed to mature into later on in life. So it's, I think being a 6-2, speaking from personal experience and knowing this profile and the details of it, the first 30 years is an experimentation and discovering yourself and discovering how you interact with other people. But I would caution 6-2s from making major long-term commitments unless it's absolutely correct for you to do so in those 30 years, first 30 years. And if you do, and they break apart, and things don't work out as you had hoped, and you feel as though your trust has been broken, that's okay. That's a part of the process for the 6-2, and the 30 to 50 phase being a time of retreat onto the roof to heal your wounds and begin to develop objectivity is what you have to look forward to. The first phase is about discovery. It's not about success. It's about discovery. It's about learning how you interact with the world around you, how other people function, what you can and cannot trust. Okay. And then 50 onwards, after that period of retreat, aloofness, healing from the trials and tribulations of your first phase, It is about you returning to the world via a call, okay, to be a leader and to be an objective, wise role model and and a unique example for other people. Okay. And that's what it is to be a role model. To be a role model doesn't necessarily mean that you are anything other than what is authentically correct for you to be. It's a unique expression. And it's a unique expression that's often associated deeply with the hexagrams of the personality Sun Earth. So if you're wondering as a 6-2, well, what is it that I'm here to be a role model of? Have a look at your personality Sun, have a look at your personality Earth, and contemplate and ponder relationship of those gates, okay? Have a look and see if they show up in a channel and what that channel represents as a life force, okay? Strengths. Of course, the 6-2 has strengths. It's not all trial and error. And having developed wisdom through hard-earned life experience, 6-2s are designed to embody a higher perspective that is considerate of factors beyond the sight of others. And that is something that a 6-2 is not necessarily guaranteed to have, but it's something that they certainly can develop, which is this higher perspective, this wisdom, this objectivity, this consideration for others, being considerate of multiple factors affecting multiple people and how that all plays out, how that all affects the dynamic as a whole. Okay, these are the kind of things that the 6-2 can be capable of dealing with. They are our natural born leaders and role models here to exemplify authenticity, trust, and how to live according to one's own authority. They are designed to be concerned about and capable of sensing what's coming over the horizon, which can be a real gift for those that that have 6-2s in their lives, where the 6-2 actually has this perspective of what's coming over the horizon, and when called, can actually share that wisdom to help prepare people for what's to come. Okay, because they have a sense of it. Yeah, challenges again, like I mentioned ad nauseum. The early years can be extremely challenging as they start off as 3-2s, and yeah, it can be a rough ride because you, like I said, you basically as a 6-2 in the early life phase get called into a relationship that's bound not to last. It's bound to break apart, and 6-2s being naturally optimistic uh, in that phase can be devastated by the difficulties and the bonds made and broken. And it can literally feel like you end up living 3 distinctly different lives, where you have your 0 to 30, you have your 30 to 50, and then you have your 50 onward. Can literally be 3 distinct different lives where you have different people, different relationships, different locations, okay? All the while setting you up for your unique role to play in the mature phase of your life, where you really are here to be a role model for others, okay? And like I said, a little insight, have a look at the gates associated with your personality, Sun Earth, and that'll give you a lot of information with regards to what those qualities are in terms of where your 6th line potential lies, okay? And last but not least is the 6-3, the role model martyr. This is the last profile, and of course, is the last of the left angle, and is the most transpersonal or other-oriented profile that you're going to see in any of the charts that you look at, okay? It is a dynamic interplay between the evolving maturity of the 6th-line objective role model and that of the 3rd-line subjective adventurer, okay? This profile is put through the ringer early in life. Again, first 30 years, they're going to be a 3-3, okay? And their own personal trials and tribulations can, when given time to heal, allow them to be some of our most wise and experienced leaders. If they can survive the difficulties of the first 30 years, find some sort of stability in their midlife so that they can mature and grow into those wise, objective, capable leaders. Again, the difficulty and the challenge with the 6-3 is that it's not like the 6-2 when they go up on the roof, the 6-2 is really aloof. They're a hermit and they're on the roof. They're really not going to be engaging a lot with a ton of social interaction with people unless it's truly correct for them. Whereas the 6-3 will always sort of give it a try. They're always willing to experiment. They're willing to give it another shot. So their personality is kind of being drawn off of the roof and away from simply being aloof, back down into the world, back down into experimentation, to gather more experience, because there's always the potential of being able to learn something new. So it's yeah, it's I don't know very many 6-3s. The ones that I've met have always surprised me, with just how much wisdom they have about life at a personality level, and how they've been able to gain that wisdom through difficulties associated with their physicality and their form, and the things that they've done with their actual, body throughout their life. It's yeah, it's really really quite remarkable. Okay. So that's all 12 profiles. Uh, the important thing to remember again when considering your own profile is really, are you operating according to your type, strategy, and inner authority? And is that process allowing you to express the unique costume of your profile in a way that's healthy, in a way that's bringing you a sense of your signature? Or are you frustrated? And, if you're a fifth line, are you frustrated? If you're a fifth line generator and you're frustrated and having to deal with the projections and expectations of others, okay. Or can you be satisfied being able to be a practical leader in times of crisis when you're called and actually, tasked with that responsibility? It's it's quite a dynamic. Any questions, feedback? Let's see if there's anybody even still here. Questions, feedback, things you guys might want to share about your own personal experience with your profile. Let's see. That's saying, as a 5-1, learning how to say no has been my biggest strength. Right. And Beth, would you say that saying no to responsibilities that are based on an expectation that uh, is not necessarily maybe you can help us understand how that showed up for you?
It goes hand in hand with people thinking I'm going to play a particular role or that I can be a particular influence in their life, and then assigning that responsibility to me, thinking, oh boy, this is great. Beth is going to this and that. And me saying, no, you've just been mistaken by the illusion that you think I can provide that. And that is difficult for me, because to bring astrology into it, I have 4 Virgo things in I want to help everybody. I want to serve. I'm bent on serving. So learning how to say no, it disappoints me to do it, but really saves me in the end. And it saves disappointing others too, because, it's just a good all-around tool to have.
Thank you for sharing that. It's so precise. Yeah. Yeah, and it's and this is what I've seen in my own life, the 5s around me, and what I've studied in the material is that, like you said, people assign roles, expectations, duties, tasks without even asking you, right? It's like they assign all of these particular expectations without even being considerate of whether or not the 5 even wants to participate or is capable of living into those expectations to begin with, which can be a challenge. And like you said, I think wanting to help and wanting to be a leader and a positive influence on other people. You mentioned the Virgo thing. I think that goes hand in hand again with being left angle, is because we do have a perspective. We, as in 5-1, 6-2, etc., have a perspective on all the other people in our lives, and we can see them, and we can see people's suffering, and we can see people's challenges, and we can see people's dilemmas. Um, we can see people stuck in their own subjective process, and often have a desire to want to do something about it. But of course, how much of that is motivated by the mind and the not self is always something to ponder, and how much of it is actually authentic for us to engage with according to our strategy and inner authority. And yeah, SNA helps to resolve a lot of issues and dilemmas. Ah, okay, let's see. So this was just sort of to wrap it up here. This was, and I've been doing this throughout, giving you guys examples of how the different profiles play into the different types and how that can express uniquely within our own lives. But just, take home from this is you can do a little bit of research for yourself into your own design and begin to ponder the combination of your type and profile, because it will help you to begin to grasp the uniqueness of your design. And in fact, I think this is so important. I believe this is so important that I actually offer this for free as a report on my website. You can go to livemydesign.com and scroll down on the homepage, and there's a button that you can click where it says get your type and profile report. And I've assembled a combination report for all. There's over 60 combinations. So every possible type and profile combination uniquely synthesized so that you can begin to understand the unique interplay between, like I said, personality and the unconscious construct and that of your type. Because, a 1-3 generator is very different from a 5-2 generator, in such the same way as, a 2-4 projector is different from a 6-2 projector. They're going to have different personality archetypes and different requirements for comfort and fulfillment at the physical level. Okay. And, a 1-3 generator versus a 5-2 generator, you're going to have a generator with a very investigative, fact-finding, research-oriented personality versus a generator with a fifth line personality who really, again, is here to be called into a position of leadership and influence. Okay. It's not the same as and other people oriented versus being simply self-absorbed in one's own process. Okay. That's at the conscious level. And then, of course, at the unconscious level, you're going to have bonds made and broken, things happening, mistakes being made, discoveries being had, versus the two, who is just sort of naturally absorbed in its own creative process, waiting for the call, okay, to share what it knows and what it can and cannot do with other people. So, all right. Marie, I am a generator 6-3, and a friend of mine is a 6-3 manifester, and another of my friends is a 6-3 projector. We have had and have very different ways of dealing with life and what has happened in it in regards to trial and error and stepping into the role model phase. Brilliant. Exactly. Thank you for sharing that, Marie. And because the profile interplaying with the type is going to result in a different type of energetic construct. Your projector, you got the non-energy type. If you're generator, your energy type. If you're manifestor, your energy type. So that alone. And then, of course, like I have been encouraging you guys throughout this presentation, have a look at your incarnate. It's called your incarnation cross, or the gates associated with your personality and design Sun Earth, and begin to ponder the qualities of those gates to help you see deeper into what your profile in terms of being a 2-4 or a 3-5 is actually associated with in terms of the energetic significance. Yeah. Thanks, Jesse. All
So
right.
I just wanted to say that to me, this is such a relief.
Okay, great.
You know, I'm an astrology student for quite a few years, but just recently have really run into human design. And intuitively, I've lived through this a little bit, but the mistakes, and just constantly. Um, but the relief of that self-absorption and trying to figure it out, but the projection of being responsible for everyone else and trying so hard to live up to that saying no, or it's okay to be myself in that, the permission being granted in this. Oh my gosh, is such a relief. And the authority and the strategy and all that stuff has just, oh my gosh, I'm thrilled to continue studying and learning and being okay with just me.
Yeah.
Is good.
And just
So,
to clarify,
thank
you're
you.
a 3-5, right, Darcy?
I'm a 3-5 projector.
Yeah.
Yes, with a right angle cross of the four ways.
Right.
And so yeah, I'm and emotional too. That's what it says here. Yes.
Yeah, emotional.
So a projector. So yeah, I'm really excited to continue on learning and growing and being at peace. Oh, for crying out loud, if that's a thing,
Yeah, of course.
So yeah.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I feel so good
Thank
to hear you
you.
say that. And I've heard it so many times over the years from so many different people that it's the self-validation with human design that feels so good to a lot of people, where you feel valid, you feel recognized. You feel as though there's something about the knowledge when spoken specifically to your qualities that is very validating. Like, wow, you're 3-5 projector. So like the bitterness that can arise in bonds made and broken when the expectation wasn't lived into, right?
Right.
You know?
Yes, so much. And that you can kind of just laugh at that and say,
Yeah,
it's okay.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
okay. That's your thing. It's not mine.
yeah,
And yeah, it really does alleviate that. Like I said, that bitterness and that it's just, you work through it, but it's okay.
yeah.
And so
Mhm.
yeah, I still have a lot of work to do, but it's super exciting, hopeful. The anticipation is great. Yeah, so
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. That's really exciting. It's great. That's like the perfect outcome I could have possibly hoped for
oh
from
yay.
sharing this information, is that it feels like a relief and
Mm-hmm.
promotes hope and optimism, because it's like, and that's what human design does, right? It's like the mechanics of our being. And if we can begin to understand it, and especially say understand those challenges, and it makes sense, okay, and then the strategies to help overcome them over time, that's where the real work and the difference, I think, can be made for people. Is, being a fifth line, learning to say no to expectations placed upon you when you just know it's not correct for you to engage in it, or putting a stop to it, or clarifying expectations before accepting a long-term invitation. Those
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things can go a long way in helping you to feel more successful over time. So, yeah.
Right.
So, great. Thank you for sharing. Is there anyone else anything you guys
May
want
I
to?
ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Marie.
I was wondering, how does the profiles connect with each other or interplay with each other? Because I find that some people in my life are more difficult to engage with, and some are more flowing, easily
Hmm.
connecting with. So how is that connecting to the profiles and the lines? Is the harmonious lines are easier to connect with, and the dissonance lines are more hard, or
So
how does it work?
So the harmony and the dissonance is relative to one's own personal experience of their profile,
Okay.
not necessarily how I'm going to experience somebody else. Not necessarily. At some level, it would be, but In terms of interplay between the profiles, oh my God, this could be a whole course unto itself. I think from my personal experience, combining research and knowing the charts of people in my life, fourth lines, for example, you're always going to get a friendliness, generous, considerate, gregarious, outward-oriented experience with them, always at some level. Whereas again, if you have people who are third line, second line, or first line, you're going to get more of an introspective, self-absorbed, just doing their own thing kind of experience. And again, it's speaking as a 6-2 with the second line profile. Second line profiles, they can be either very pleasant to be around or nasty because they want to be left alone. So you're either getting this natural gift from them, or they can be very boldly like, get out of my face, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
What else? You see, we can go on for days combining the different combinations of the profiles and how they that's actually a really good idea for a course, right? Think about like what's it like for a 1-3 to interact with a 6-2, you know, or a 6-2 to interact with a 3-5. I think if there is, going back to your original statement about harmony and resonance, if there is resonance or harmony between two profiles. So for example, a 3-5 and a 6-2 are actually have harmony between the personalities in the design, because the 3 and the 6 and then the 5 and the 2. So you would find a level of relating capacity and empathy with one another, and both dealing with projection, both dealing with the field of expectation, both having to deal with trial and error. And yet, of course, the 3-5 is always going to be absorbed in their own subjective process, trying to master things, figure things out, find what's practical and something that they can universalize. And then the 6-2 is kind of just sitting back, watching the show, you know, from that higher perspective, doesn't really want to be bothered, and can find the whole 3-5 process to be quite humorous to watch from a distance, you know. So yeah, you're right. There is, if you put them side by side and you look at the harmony between the profiles, there's always that interesting interplay. And in fact, it's something that we're trained to look at analysts when we're doing connection charts between two individuals. It's one of the main components is you look at their profile, you know, husband and wife, daughter and mother, look to see what the profile compatibility is, because it says a lot. And remember, go back to basics. Remember, the first 7 profiles, right angle, are self-absorbed. They're in their own process. Their personality is not necessarily, I don't want to say capable, because I don't think there's an incapability for right angles to be other oriented, but naturally it's more about, okay, what am I doing for myself that brings me a sense of satisfaction if I'm a generator? Okay, if you're a 2-4. Whereas if they're a left angle, you're looking at an individual who is focused on the other, considerate of the other, and in many ways fulfills their purpose and role in society through being a leader or a guide for the people in their lives. So it's, again, think of like a parent and a child. Say the child is a right angle and the parent is a left angle. The child's going to be self-absorbed in their own process, and the left angle parent is going to be able to see their child and understand their child from that perspective because they have a consideration for them. Now, flip the roles. What if you have a left angle child and a right angle parent? You have a left angle child that's looking at their parents going, oh my God, what a disappointment. And the right angle parent totally self-absorbed in their own doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of interesting because my best friend and my guy is both 2-4. So my best friend, she's a 2-4 generator, and my guy is a 2-4 projector. So sometimes I feel like a little bit disappointed in them, actually. The parent-child thing there, so I can recognize that.
And sorry, what's your profile again, Marie?
I'm a 6'3" generator.
Right. So there you go. You have eyes on the whole flock, right?
Yeah.
You've got eyes on everybody. And it's like literally being, like I said, the house metaphor, you're on the roof and you can see the entire neighborhood. Whereas most of your neighbors are outside cutting the grass, head down in the kitchen, preparing dinner, doing their own thing, and they have no idea that that perspective is even available or interesting or something that they would even necessarily want to have. And yeah, so again, 6'3", you're always going to have eyes on everybody else, and yeah. It's a great question, and it's honestly something that you could probably spend a long time analyzing, is the unique relationships between the profiles. I think from today, just take away the simple understanding of right angle is more self-absorbed, left angle is other-oriented. That says a lot about how they're going to interact with one another in terms of where their roles are fulfilled and their purpose is derived. And it's like, again, going back to Magnus, he's a 2-5. He's literally sitting at the table, staring at the chessboard, totally self-absorbed in the game, right? He's not even necessarily thinking about the person across from him or his opponent. He's just looking at himself and his own process and focused on the goal in front of him. Whereas you might have a marshal or a referee who's sitting up, who's a 6 or a 5, who's sitting up on a tower overlooking all of the chessboards to make sure that nobody's cheating. It's a different perspective, right? It's a different perspective. And again, just for all of our 6'2" and 6'3" friends out there, and even the fifth line personality friends out there, that higher perspective is not something you have early in life. So don't be disappointed. You're like, I can't see yet. It will come in time, and it's something that develops as you're able to retreat and move into a place where you have some clarity in your own process. But okay, so let me check the chat. I know we're over 2 hours now. Yeah, Beth, that's such a good distinction, so much nuance. Yeah, it's so much nuance. Angles are not to be confused with variables. That is correct. Nope. Variables are substructure. So variables have to do with information below the profile. So there's your gate, there's your profile, there's your color, your tone, and your base. And variable information is determined by a combination of the tone and the color, and how it actually affects the line of your profile. So there's a relationship between the substructure, the variable information, and your profile, of course. And that's really when we get into just how profoundly accurate and detailed human design is, and being able to map the architecture of someone's personality construct. Because again, just thinking about the Sun-Earth activation in terms of variable, you're looking at a term that's called motivation. And motivation is determined by color, and your color basically colors the motivation of your line. So you can have 5-1 profiles who are all motivated differently at a substructure level to operate in a way that is uniquely different from one another. Some may be motivated by guilt, some may be motivated by hope, for example. That's the binary for the 5th color motivation. So it's a whole other area of study. All right, great. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. It's been a lot of fun to share this information with you. Hope you learned a lot. We're going to post the replays on YouTube over the next couple of days. If there are not any other questions, we'll sign off for today. And thank you so much for being here. Remember, strategy and inner authority. And now you can begin to integrate these insights about your profile. And like I said, I have the type and profile report for free on my website. And yeah, of course, if you're ever looking to go deeper, I do offer readings, which can be booked through my website. And otherwise, like I said, I'll send out the recording in an email and it'll be posted on our YouTube channel. So have a great day and wonderful connecting with everybody. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye.